Okay, I'm Samuel Case with FISM News, and we're here with the man himself, Dan Celia, the founder of FISM and the host of Financial Issues with, you guessed it, Dan Celia, and financial analyst. We're going to talk about the new bill that the Democrats passed that is supposedly for COVID, $1.9 trillion just got passed in the House, right?
Yep.
And what is it, 9% is going to actually help COVID relief? The rest of it is just a Democrat wish list that they said, yeah, it's COVID. But not really, right?
9%. I mean, think about it. 9% of $2 trillion.
Yeah.
And all, supposedly going to help America, going to stimulate the economy, going to help small business, all those restaurant guys that lost their jobs, all the truckers that are out of business. 3,000 trucking companies gone.
Wow.
Over this. I mean, that's huge. And so that's creating inflation because obviously the truck drivers around that are still left are charging top dollar to get things to market and so on and so forth. But none of it's going to them. None of it's going to them. And, I talked about this is a Nancy Pelosi wish list.
That's right, just Santa, to government Santa.
And that's
right.
what it is. That's what it is. And it's $2 trillion more on a national debt to us. And some of the numbers, so 140 million going to Nancy Pelosi's Silicon Valley subway system.
Oh my gosh.
140 million. Listen to this, 570 million for this bureaucratic bailout that allows federal government employees to stay home with their kids and still get paid.
Is there anything for the teachers' unions or anything that in there?
You know they had to get the teachers' union in there. And by the way, before I even talk about the teachers' union, get into that, the teachers' union, it came out last week, are 48 million in the black.
Really?
They don't even need any money.
They're not even doing anything. They're sitting at home.
And they've been hoarding all this money.
Yeah.
What for, I wonder?
To do the protests, I'm guessing.
Yeah, to do the protests. $10 million they're getting, the teachers' union's getting. And, obviously, this is so they can keep schools closed, continue to pay everybody, build their indoctrination programs that are going on. $350 million allocated to states and local governments. This is one of the things I've been harping on a long time because they got to bail out all the Democratic states.
I was just going to ask this. So you're saying that taxpayers in Texas are bailing out bad policy in New York and California,
and Illinois, and Los Angeles,
all of them. Name your
That's exactly what is happening. Yeah. So our federal tax dollars are bailing all of that out. And by the way, 350 million allocated. I said that for states. And why isn't this thing moving up? I don't have it. I go from memory. The other big issue is. Boy, I really got to find this number here. Where is it? Here it is. $36 billion being slashed from Medicare.
Oh, wow.
That's huge.
Yeah.
36 million being slashed from Medicare. The interesting part, Sam, and you'll remember this, before the election,
this was a big issue about Trump.
It was. And senior citizens were saying, well, I have to vote for Biden because he's going to take care of Medicare and Trump isn't. And I kept saying it's just the opposite. You have no idea what you're voting.
If I'm not mistaken, didn't Biden make that point on the debate stage?
He did.
Yes, and he said he's going to cut your Social Security, going to cut Medicare. And I remember yelling at the TV, I'm like, where are you even getting this from? I mean, you're saying it with a straight face, so people probably will believe you. But
and here he is. Here they are cutting $36 billion from Medicare. Now, here's the problem, though, that people aren't thinking about and realizing. Seniors, they're cutting $36 billion. They absolutely have to cut care.
Right.
They have to. Because if they're going to save $36 billion, they've got to cut it. Well, you're 80 years old.
Is it really worth it?
You don't really need, you're not a productive citizen. Do you really need the hip replaced or whatever it is?
Right.
And that's the sad part. And that's what I was most concerned about with Biden. They don't care. Remember, this is an administration, both vice president and president, that are perfectly okay with allowing a baby to be comfortable after it's born and die. This is an administration that's okay with partial birth, abortion, not even thinking about the great deal of what they might be able to bring to society as they grow up.
Right.
Not even thinking about that. So I made this point before the election on the program many times. Do you really think they're going to care about seniors?
Right.
Obviously not. $336 billion gone from Medicare. That's just a huge amount of money.
So let me ask you, what actually is going to COVID?
Well, 9%.
Do you know what that's going to? Is that going to vaccine distribution, or what is it?
The only thing that I'm certain of, it's going to $1,400 per person.
Okay.
So they see, if they don't keep the American people happy, the American people might rise up and say, what are you doing?
Yeah.
7% going to COVID relief. That's about it. Teachers union, they're considering that COVID relief. I'm not sure how, but they are. And teachers union flush, as I mentioned, with $48 million in assets right now. So it's really hard to believe that we have a $2 trillion, we are quickly approaching $30 trillion worth of national debt. And it's hard to believe that 7% of this, all this debate, and 7% of it is actually going to help. I mean, restaurants and truckers, as I already mentioned, so many small businesses that are struggling, second and third generation small businesses that are gone now. And this is going to a subway for Nancy Pelosi or whatever,
whoever out in Silicon Valley.
It's horrible. So really a big issue.
And one final question. This might set you off on a whole nother tangent. Where is this money coming from? I know this is...
it's coming, it's being printed.
It's just made up.
It's coming out of the Treasury, obviously, that's being printed. I mentioned this yesterday on the program, that I don't want to get too thick into the weeds here.
I know I might have opened a can of worms on you.
We have to sell our debt, right? So we have to print the money, and then we've got to monetize. So we got to sell it. We got to sell bonds. You might buy a savings bond. Some people, big investors on Wall Street put $1 million in buying our debt, our bonds. China used to be our big buyer. Now it's the Federal Reserve. Federal Reserve constantly buying billions of dollars every week of our debt. Well, the 7-year auction came out. Nobody talks about that 7-year. Who cares? So the 7-year auction came out on Thursday. They doubled the amount of debt that they tried to sell, and it was really hard. They had a hard time. They had to keep raising the interest rate in order to finally sell it all. They doubled what they were selling.
And this went to the Federal Reserve?
And this goes to the Federal Reserve. That's our money. They print it, then they sell it, sell the debt, and then they can use it to pay the electric bill or these kinds of things with our tax dollars.
Now, if I knew any better, if you or I did that, that'd be called a scam.
Yeah,
I would think.
Well, it is a scam. Yeah. It's a Ponzi scheme.
But when the government does it, it's just called, economics.
I'm going to give this money over here, and then we'll just print some more.
Right.
You and I don't have printing presses in our garages, but they just print more money than they try to sell. But listen, think about this. Suppose the Federal Reserve says, we can't buy anymore. They've got $14 trillion on their books now. They can't buy anymore. China doesn't want to buy it anymore. I believe China's coming out with a whole new currency system that I'm not going to talk about yet because everything's so sketchy. But the China's not going to buy it. China doesn't want any more of our debt. So it's a huge, we are seeing the beginning of a failure in our economic system, to the likes of which is going to make the Great Depression seem like a cakewalk compared to what we're going to do.
There's that conservative optimism.
Yeah, sorry.
That's right.
Sorry.
Well, thank you so much, Dan. It's a pleasure. Thank you.
I'm glad we did this.